May I warn you of something? My brother can feel cursed, that love is doomed for him.
I don't like the fabric.
Maybe one day you'll change your taste.
Maybe I like my own taste.
Just enough to get you into trouble.
Perhaps I'm looking for trouble.
Stop!
Good looking omelet. Phantom Thread. So Phantom Thread is directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, who, well, anybody who's into movies has kind of a hard-on for this guy. Like, it's a bit excessive the way people love this guy. I mean, it's almost become a cliche to say you're a fan of Paul Thomas Anderson. Like,
one of our finest living directors.
His work is too good.
In auteur the highest regard.
It's too much now. It's too much. I am a fan, though. The actual movie is about this 1950s fashion designer living in London who designs dresses. And he meets this waitress one morning when he's out having breakfast. They have kind of a connection, and they start dating. And the entire movie is their sort of relationship, how it evolves, how it has kind of conflict with his work. Not only his work, but his sister Cyril, who runs this fashion house. He's the designer, he's like the main guy, but she kind of runs the day-to-day stuff, and she has some problems with the new girl. That's the movie. That tension is like, will they stay together? What's gonna happen, you know? Where's this going? And I loved it. I thought it was pretty fantastic. Actually, in the first 30 minutes, I thought I wouldn't like it. I thought it was a little bit slow. I'm not so much into these period movies. But all of that kind of changed as the movie went on. I did a complete 180 watching this movie. I changed my mind. I loved it by the time it was over. So it's a romance film, and it's kind of a period piece, but I actually don't think those are good ways to describe the movie if you're trying to explain what you like about it or anything, because it's so unlike any other period piece movie, and it's so unlike any other romance movie. It's kind of its own thing. When you think of period piece films, you kind of think of these sweeping shots of new environments.
Which is why it's so important. The Queen of England.
You know, stuff like that. And it's like, those films, they put in a lot of effort to make you feel like you're in another place. This movie it had enough to let you know what period of time you're in, but it wasn't the point of the movie. Like, I feel like a lot of period pieces, the entire point of the movie is the period. Like, the rest of the movie is just fluff, you know? But this, it was like period, everything was background. Everything else in the movie was background. The fashion, the time it was in, all of that stuff. The only thing that was important was the relationship. That was the core of the movie. As opposed to those other overstyled movies, this one kind of had a very light touch in sort of the production design elements, the way it looked. It was very minimalistic. There wasn't a lot of clutter in the frame, you know, it wasn't this dense image. It was kind of a lot of plain white backgrounds, plain white rooms. And when you get used to that environment, the moment something else comes into it, like one of these dresses, or one of these people, or one of these characters, they just kind of pop out so strongly against this. I wouldn't say minimalist completely, but it's not very, it doesn't jump out at you. I guess one important thing that a lot of people wouldn't expect from a movie like this is that it's kind of funny, you know? It wasn't as serious as it seemed from the trailers and stuff like that. So the romance of the movie, that's something that I really want to mention, is that, you know, the way they meet in this film is kind of cute. It's very well done scene, but it doesn't have that impact. I thought, oh shit, did something go wrong on this shooting day that they had to cut it so short? You really get to know Reynolds, the fashion designer guy. You get to know him really well. He's played by Daniel Day-Lewis. You get to know him really well, but you know almost nothing, basically nothing, about Alma, about the girl that he's meeting. So it's like, that first encounter kind of fell a little bit flat, and I was like a little bit disappointed. But, you know, as the movie went on, I felt like, okay, I kind of get why that should have been weaker. It's really important for that scene to be just that way so that it fits in correctly with the rest of the arc. And I really enjoyed that. I thought, looking back on it, having seen the rest of the film, I think that was a really great little scene as well. One thing that did bug me about it, though, was the music. in the first half hour of the movie, it was heavy stuff. You know, it's like I really liked the music. I thought it was really. It's like it almost didn't stop for the first half hour, and it's like whoa, like it's too much, you know. But then, you know, again, by the time I got to the end, I started to feel like maybe this is an intentional thing, because it sets up the world as like a movie. So it's not, you don't take it too realistically. It sets it up as this is a big, sweeping romance movie, even though it kind of contrasts to the very lightly styled images. The music styles it like heavily. And it does taper off. That music isn't constant throughout. It didn't bother me for the rest of the movie. It was just that first half hour that it was like relentless. You know? The actor, to start with, Daniel Day-Lewis. I don't even want to talk about Daniel Day-Lewis. Everybody knows he's good. There's nothing else to say. He's good. He's like the best. I don't know what else to say. He's great. He inhibits his character. You know, I don't even see Daniel Day-Lewis anymore. I just see the character. I'm just rehashing that everybody else says, but I do feel that way authentically. He's so good. The woman he's acting alongside is Vicky Krieps. She had a lot of weight on her shoulders because she's acting opposite Daniel Day-Lewis. That's a lot to live up to. But I felt like she was really good, and she has kind of a really interesting quality to the way that she approached this role. It's just everything she does is so subtle. You don't know what she's thinking, but you're constantly like, what's going on in her head? You know, she's such a fascinating actress. She kind of reels you in. You can have these long takes of just her face where you just do nothing but look at her face, and it's like intriguing as hell. There's an eagle. Falcon. She's not from South Africa, but she stayed here for a while, and South Africa is where she decided to become an actress. So South Africa's pretty cool. This is what it looks like in South Africa. So lastly, my favorite performance. I know Daniel Day-Lewis, blah, blah, blah. Leslie Manville.
Well, if you're going to make her a ghost, go ahead and do it, but please don't let her sit around waiting for you. I'm very fond of her.
Oh, you're very fond of her, are you? Well, in that case.
No, don't turn it on me. I don't want your cloud on my head.
Shut up,
no,
Sue.
You can shut right up. Don't pick a fight with me. You certainly won't come out alive.
Spoilers. If you want to skip the spoilers, skip to this time code. I have to get to the last bit of this movie. The last bit is just so strange. It's such a weird ending. I can understand why a lot of people were like totally off-put by that ending, but for me, that ending is what brought it from just an interesting, good movie to like something really beyond that. It was just so incredible. The entire context of the movie changes with that ending. She's poisoned him once before. She's poisoned his tea. And now she's starting to poison his omelet. She's poisoning his food. Only thing is, he's in the room. And he sees what's happening. That scene, the tension in that scene, it's not that the tension is incredibly high. It's just such a complicated, fascinating tension. In each moment, there's a new piece of information. And it changes the tension. And you wonder, you don't even know what to feel tense about anymore, because it's everything just, it's a dynamic kind of tension that just keeps changing. It was just, whoa, I was so impressed by that. That's why Paul Thomas Anderson gets the big bucks, you know? It's because he can direct a scene like that, and there are so few people who have that intuition for building a scene that way. You know, I've seen the interviews. I think the entire movie is basically built around that scene.
I was very, very sick in bed one night, and my wife looked at me with a love and affection that I hadn't seen in a long time. And so I called Daniel the next day and said, I think I have a good idea for a movie.
There are a few more scenes like that. I think in the entire movie there's about 3 scenes that are so perfectly tight and so focused. and they elevate the entire movie. And they're the very important scenes, those. And maybe the connecting scenes between them are not quite as powerful as those set piece scenes, but I felt the entire movie is elevated by the quality of these scenes. So the other two scenes that were really great for me was New Year's Eve, where she wants to go dancing, and the first time that Cyril meets Alma. The first time those two meet, what the f***? It's right in the middle of this sort of sweeping romance that's happening, and Cyril comes in right there. The rest of the movie is set up by that, where he's measuring her body, and Cyril comes in, and Cyril needs to help. Yeah, that's the entire movie set up, and everything is that. So I gotta do the nerdy thing here. I'm doing it here in the spoilers because I guess a lot of people don't give a shit about this stuff, but I do. So I want to talk about it. So it's here in the spoilers. If you want to skip the nerdy director talk, you can skip to the same time code as earlier. Skip to the closing. I feel like this movie is crying out to be its own thing. It's really desperate to not be called a P.T. Anderson movie. It seems to me like all of the things there's like about a dozen channels on YouTube that try and analyze Paul Thomas Anderson's style, the things that he always does in every single movie, and I think it's kind of ridiculous to analyze a filmmaker's style that way, as if he always gravitates to a singular themes.
Paul Thomas Anderson's entire body of work as a thematic whole.
You know you're watching Paul Thomas Anderson if...
Because it doesn't really meet those criteria. It doesn't feel like a P.T. Anderson movie. I felt like he's tending towards a minimalism in production design, like an accurate production design, but not over-stylized movie production design. And I noticed that was something that he started doing in Inherent Vice, and he's continuing now. He's done it definitely a lot more noticeably in Phantom Thread. It's minimalism in the production design, putting a lot of effort into making it accurate, but not making a huge show. Here's my ranking of all Paul Thomas Anderson's movies. This is how I would rank all of his movies, and I think I'd put Phantom Thread right over here. I know that probably seems like an insult, but I actually like even the worst Paul Thomas Anderson movie. I like it a lot, and I like this even more than that. So I'm not trying to bash it. I think it's good. And one last thing I wanted to talk about. I think it's kind of, maybe this is kind of a stupid thing, but does anyone think that Phantom Thread, the title, is like an allusion to some kind of phantom plot thread? Like, is it secretly phantom plot thread? Because I felt like there were a couple of things that either did pay off or didn't pay off through the film that seem like very important things. Let me know if you think there is a phantom plot thread, or if you think that's just a stupid idea. Alright, so there were a couple of things that bugged me once or twice in the film. I've mentioned them, but like even those things, I feel like they work to the betterment of the film in some sense. I feel like it was intentional. That being said, I don't think it's like a thrill ride all the way through. It's not a very exciting film. It's not There Will Be Blood. It's not Boogie Nights, It's a million times better than Shape of Water, that's for sure. I would highly recommend this. I really loved it. But if you don't like period pieces or romance films, I would still kind of recommend it because it's so unlike those other films. It's so unlike other romance films and unlike other period pieces that I think you might still enjoy it. But I mean, if you don't have a lot of patience for movies, then just give it a skip, because it is a bit slow. So if you like to get to the point, then skip this film. You probably won't dig it.